Really nice. Is it what is it summertime there?
Yeah, it's summertime. It's 6 p.m. here, and there is 33 or 35 degree.
Awesome.
So
Very
better
cool.
with the windows open.
Yeah, we're live now. So welcome to Substrate Seminar, everyone. We have a very global Substrate Seminar today. My guest Julian was just telling you a little bit about where he's from, but before I hand it over to him, just do a quick kind of introduction. My name is Dan. This is Substrate Seminar. It's a weekly online collaborative learning call where we learn about the substrate framework for building blockchains and talk about it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, what's up? Yes, we're really excited to have Julian with us today. So yeah, with that, let me go ahead and introduce Julian. Julian is the creator, the principal. I'll let you do the details and everything of the PIRL network. And I thought it would be really, really fun to have Julian on seminar because he recently migrated PIRL onto a substrate based framework. And I thought it was really cool how much of that you were really able to do on your own, Julian. Like a lot of people need a lot of help to work with this stuff. And you were able to do a lot with some help. I had a lot of fun helping you, but it wasn't a lot of help. And so I really thought it would be cool for you to just come on and tell people about, what it was like to take an existing blockchain product, move it onto Substrate, what was the good, the bad, and the ugly of that. Maybe other people are doing similar things and you can make their lives easier. So I'm really excited to have you here. And with that, I'm going to go on mute for a little bit and drop off the camera because I think you have a presentation to share, and I'll let you introduce yourself and all that stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Yes.
Thank you. Let me share the presentation. Okay, here we go. Okay, so thank you first for the invitation, Dan. Really appreciate it. I'm a developer of PL. I created like 3 years ago. We started proof of work on a fork of Ethereum on Get. I created PL because I wanted to make something new and honest in this blockchain environment at that time, because it was mostly ICO and so on. You needed to be engineered to make a simple transaction, and that's why I created PL because yeah, it's PL. That's why I created PL, because I wanted to offer the blockchain to other people and to non-tech people. So it's really the goal of the blockchain is to be able to be usable for everyone. So I started one day, not for the money, but I'm a guy that doesn't sleep much, and I got some interest in the blockchain, and I say, okay, I need to go over that and start coding, and that's the beginning of PL. So after 3 years, we got the mining. That was cool. We got a few attacks, or 51 attacks.
Julian, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So you were a developer before you started working with blockchain?
I was not a developer. I don't have any degree or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I learned it by myself because I needed to do it because I got a company in
Mm-hmm.
contractor and I needed to track the work of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked an offers, and the offer was way too high. And I say, okay, I will take the time and do it by myself. And it's how I started coding.
Awesome. And so that was with blockchain, or you were coding with like more traditional stuff before you moved to blockchain?
Well, I don't know if we can call that coding, but it was first HTML, you know.
Uh-huh.
Then yeah, I do JavaScript and I go to Python a lot. I like
Mm-hmm.
Python
Mm-hmm.
really. Then with PL, I go to learn Golang. Was really cool
Mm-hmm.
too. And
Mm-hmm.
now with Substrate, I'm learning Rust.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I just always love to hear the developer journey. So you were talking about Perl and kind of the beginnings of it.
Yeah. So and all of that. Yeah, when I see Substrate, my biggest barrier at the start was Rust because it's okay, one more language to learn. But yeah, finally Rust is pretty cool. I'm starting to like it. It's pretty fast. The syntax is not the same, but there is a lot of tutorials on the internet and YouTube and whatever, and also the great Substrate community to help you. Before starting the presentation, I just want to say a big thank you to Dan because he helped us a lot. When I say a lot, it's really a lot. He's really techy, and yeah, if you have a trouble, I will not say send him a DM, but there is the group on how you call that matrix, where you can ask question about Substrate, and I think there is also a Discord of Substrate where you can ask some question, and it's a really cool community. So let's get back to PIRL. After 3 years, we got proof of work. We got a lot of trouble, and it's why we decided to find another solution. So, as I said, proof of work, a lot of electricity consumption, lot of attack vectors. We got hit by 51 attack. We made protection. It's called PIRL guard that we coded it. Maybe not the most academic one, but it's work and it's currently used by the coin. But we don't want it to focus on that. The PIL 1.0 was centralized. That was not good, and it's not how a blockchain should work. Without the community treasury, the inflation was not fluctuating. So with GAT, the Ethereum node, it's pretty hard to make it dynamic and so on. So that's why we needed to solve it. The technical barrier, I have to say that Substrate has a lot of tool out of the box. You spin up a chain, there is a repo. If you want to test it, you just clone the repo, you build a chain, and you are live. You can just start digging around and put in Explorer. So pretty easy, pretty cool as a developer, as you don't need to reinvent the wheel. And the biggest point was also the slow transaction in the chain, because you will see later with what we want to do, we need really fast transaction and reliable transaction. So here are the possibility that we got, because we are a small team and we cannot start a framework or a blockchain really from scratch. It's possible, but need a lot of time, need a lot of resources, and need a lot of money. Things we doesn't have now. So there was Eats 2. Well, that's pretty short because it just launched a few weeks ago, I think. Um, and was no go for us. There is AVAX, Avalanche blockchain. Um, when we look at that, this was in building process. You don't have tools like Substrate God, and would be the same problem than is you have to do a lot by yourself. So it was not the solution. And then we go, there is Polkadot, and digging around Polkadot, we found the Substrate framework, which was used to build Polkadot. And if you check on the repo, I see that when they put an update on Polkadot and Substrate, vice versa, it's directly replicated on both. So, Substrate to the rescue. It was really that. I should have wrote it done also. Okay, so to resume Substrate, it is faster, easier, and safer than PL was before. It's easy of scaling because you have all that kind of parachain. You can be a parachain, you can make a bridge. You have really a lot of possibilities. It got cross-language support. There is some stuff that's starting to implement. But anyway, we go to Rust, and if I have an advice, you should do that too, because it's well maintained. Yes, you have to learn Rust, but that's not really a big problem if you want to make some stuff cool and fast. Also, all the most recent update are in Rust. It's like Lion 2, and as a developers, the forkless upgrade. That's really nice because you can just fork. Well, we don't call that fork in Substrate. We call that Substrate runtime upgrade. And it's basically you upload your upgrade to the chain, and you upload the runtime to the chain, and it deploy if the governance accept it. If you don't want to go to the full governance package and so on and make like private blockchain or more control on it, you have the pseudo palette where you can upgrade when you want. Why is cool? Because you have a lot of people that doesn't check the nodes, and in PIRL we got like thousand nodes, more than 1,000 nodes, and it was like when you have an upgrade, the end of the world. So we go to that route, and yeah, really, it's really cool. All exchange are updated, everybody is updated. It's really decentralized too. And also, as I mentioned, Parity, so Substrate, as an awesome team, they are really there to help you. They are there to make your journey a success. And that's really important when you choose a framework.
Julian, I love the point that you brought up about how the runtime upgrades, like especially me as a developer advocate, I'm always thinking about like technical possibilities and technical capabilities. But man, you're right that when you have 1,400 validators that you're trying to get to upgrade a node, that is such a benefit right there. Like, and that has nothing to do with and that's what's so cool about Substrate is that it's not just designed to work at a technical level. It's designed to work like in the real world with real people to really like look at the problem that's being solved and make a nice way to solve it. So that's a great way to like bring up the power of runtime upgrades. There was a question actually in the troll box that I think is rather interesting because you mentioned that you maybe came from like a Python background and you really like Python, and someone says, isn't Python a cleaner language than Rust? And I think that's obviously a very subjective question. Everyone's going to have their own answer to that question, but I'd like to hear your answer to that question. Do you have any thoughts on which language is cleaner, so to speak?
Well, not maybe cleaners. Python is really cool when you start programming and for AI stuff and so on, but it's not the fastest language you can have because it's not compiled. Here, with a big network of nodes, we need to get really low latency and really fast language because all the nodes are transmitting data between each other, and the language need to be the fastest possible. So there is stuff that are built for something to do, and other stuff that is used for other thing. We just have to use the right tool for the right usage.
Yep, I think that's a really good way to put it. I can definitely like agree that maybe if you look at Python versus looking at Rust, it may look a little bit cleaner. Rust sometimes can be very verbose and lots of colons and lots of angle brackets and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I think I like the way that you put it, Julian, which is, what it compiles down to maybe is cleaner. So what you're looking at may not necessarily look quite so clean. I think you've been pretty, let's not get into religion. You're right. I mean, yes, people are talking about C++ over there. Like this is getting serious. But yeah, you're totally right. It serves a benefit. And so when it comes to building like a blockchain network, it may be a cleaner way to go in terms of the compiled code that everyone's going to be running on their computer. But if you were trying to create a little script to perform some analysis on some numbers or something, that may be a really good use case for Python. That's the thing where Python really fits in really well. And so I think it's just kind of like the right tool for the right job, basically, is kind of how I would look at it.
And if I'm not wrong, I don't think Python is so advanced in WASM.
No. I mean, I don't know anything about Python support for WASM, so that's very, very true. Yeah, I mean, Rust is not necessarily the most easiest to learn language, but man, it's really, really powerful. And so when you want to build something like Substrate and you start to understand all of the awesome things that Substrate does, I think it starts to make sense why we thought that Rust was the right tool for the job. But it's a really good question. Like, that's what we're here to talk about exactly. See, you're learning. That's exactly what we're here to talk about. So cool. Great question. Keep them coming. And yeah, back to you, Julian. Thanks for your answer.
I will have some YouTube series to share later. I have to find it. The guys was making like 5-minute video on each step of Rust. It's really made well done and can help a lot. So you don't have to learn about 2 hours of Rust, and you can go to the function you want to do and want to learn more about. So what's cool in Substrate? In Substrate is like pluggable. It's plug and play. Like that, it's like you take some stuff, you have a bit of integration around that, but it's pretty easy. You have some palettes. It's the modules that compose Substrate. You can write your own modules, but you can use existing modules too, because you don't, for example, want to write again the treasury module because someone else already does it, and they audited the code for that. It's really important too, and treasury is still treasury. So you can take the base of the treasury module, and you can even change how it works for you to adapt it to your own chain. And that's really awesome, because you save a lot of time and bug. So you basically take all your palettes and you compose your own chain with what you want and what your chain needs to do. So if you tomorrow want to spin up another chain with another usage, you can easily do it. If you work for client, for example, and you want to make private chain, you just take that and adapt the chain to your client, and you don't have to recode the peer-to-peer network, how the database transactional proceeds at low level. So yeah, that's really, really important. Maybe Dan has better word than me for that.
No, I think that's a really great overview. I always like to be really careful that people are understanding the terminology, because I think sometimes we don't make it easy for people to understand the terminology. So what we're talking about right now is very much specific to the Frame runtime development library, which is kind of like a part of Substrate that is designed for the runtime. So there are different modules for different parts of developing Substrate, like the consensus layer and the networking layer, and those would just be like normal Rust crates or whatever. But when we're talking about the Frame system for runtime development, we use these palettes, is what we call the modules there. I also see that we have a question.
I'm just searching the stuff of this guy, if
cool.
I can find it. Here you go.
Julian to the rescue.
Wow.
So that was shared in the comment. Yep. All right. Cool.
Yeah, I will
just wanted to. There. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Great minds think alike. Okay, back to you, Julian.
You're welcome. Okay, so yeah, so you basically take the palette you need to compose your chain, and we use it, for example, PIRL babe, grandpa, the election. We don't use the pseudo. Pseudo is the palette I was talking about. You basically use it if you want to make action on top of the users. Polkadot do it at start because it was really new to implement stuff and be sure everything is okay. Otherwise, you have to go to the code, and sometimes it's pretty hard. For example, we have some trouble in claim because we migrated assets from PL 1.0 to PL 2.0. And so if we got sudo, it was like 3 click, and now it's a little bit more complicated, but yeah, that's the game of the governance. We will implement the contract palette, not the EVM. Well, at least now it's not planned. The collective, the treasury, the election for the validators, and the democracy palette is also implemented. So democracy was really a big point for us because we wanted to give the power to the community, and it's really important when you build a blockchain is to not have a single point of failure, which enable treasury and democracy, because every people can basically submit project to your chain. And what we wanted to do with PL, we put a large amount in the treasury to make it possible, and get rewarded for the work they do. They don't have to raise money for small stuff or even big stuff. If the community like it, they can tip you, and they can just enable the treasury to send you money, because in the chain there is 80% of the transaction that go to the treasury and 20% of the transaction fees, sorry, that go to the validators. Democracy also is where the runtime upgrade comes. You upload the runtime to the chain, like I said before, and democracy validated and enabled the image to be deployed on your chain. The staking, it's used for the nominators and the validators, as you need to stake to be able to validate the chain. And to reinforce that, there is nominator that can stake on top of the validators to increase the security of the chain. When you will go to Substrate, the basic validation algorithm is Aura, but it doesn't fit what we wanted to do, so we go over Babe. It's the same used in Polkadot, because we wanted people to be able to create the validator themselves and to not have some third party or foundation or whatever that say, okay, I want this guy or just as a validators. And was really important because we come from a masternode like coin, and we needed that. Really important for us. If we don't implement that, it was like a regression. Then something to add to that palette stuff?
No, all
Okay,
sounds good.
cool. Some question maybe?
I don't see any questions.
Yeah. Okay, so what's next? Because it's cool, we basically use it Substrate, but we doesn't contribute that much to Substrate. In fact, because we pick some stuff from them, but we don't give it back. So that's why we now we will enable our stuff in the Substrate environment and pay for it. So in PIL 1.0, we got something that we call Marlin. Marlin was our IPFS client, our IPFS node. It was really important because we got a lot of node running, and we want to bring it back to life to make that IPFS network usable. In the past, this was private IPFS network, and now we want to bring it to the public IPFS network because it's really important, and people will be able to use that network. How? Because they can use a storage marketplace. We have some example for that that we built in PIL 1.0. But it's up where we come to the point that, well, it was not really practical because we have to use in Get smart contract. Was a good buzzword when it comes to life, but you can do a lot of stuff. But if you need to change one thing in a smart contract, it can be a real mess. So that's really important in Substrate. You can make your code inside the node, so directly in the runtime, and that make your life easier. Um, you say, okay, you make it in a smart contract or inside a node, it's the same. No, it's not the same because you can migrate the storage. It's like a database where you have entry and say you have the first name, last name, and you forgot to add the age. Um, some will say no, it's really not really true for smart contract. You can change, but no, not really. Um, so you can basically add the age field to the storage of Substrate inside your palette, because you can create your own palette with your own usage and implement it, and it's there. You upgrade your chain with that. In a smart contract, you have to make a new smart contract because you cannot change that. You cannot really change that. Well, you can modify it, but it's pretty hard to make real life businesses for that, and I think it's why we don't see so much dApps using smart contract successful everywhere. And yeah, Substrate is you code your database. It's like you work with MySQL, for example, and you do your stuff like that. You have to do migration and so on. At first, a blockchain is like distributed database. So we will implement all of that in a desktop app. We will revisit it, and we will also add on top of that desktop app piece, so private encrypted autonomous storage. Basically, you will have, you drop it, it automatically encrypt your data and apply to the chain. To the chain is not really the right word. It uploads to the IPFS, and the chain will keep track of all the IPFS hash. So you can retrieve your storage. You can use the validators node and the mounting node that will be buried in PIRL to pin your content. In IPFS, pinning is like you say, okay, hey, good, hey, you keep my content and don't erase it. So Masternode or validator will not do it for free. You will have to pay a rent to keep your data safe. After that, also you can replicate your data. Doing that with a smart contract and update that smart contract easily. You have all the time to pay fees, for transaction and so on. But if you do it inside the Substrate palette, you can do it by yourself. You can do it for free, for example. It's really how you implement it. If you want fees, if you don't want fees, but if you don't want fees, you have to put another mechanism on top of that, because otherwise they will deduct your chain. So it's really up to you. You have all the tool, and you can build on that. It's really flexible.
Julian, we do have a question. Someone's wondering, how can IPFS make PIRL more valuable? Can you provide some examples?
Well, yeah, I have some example on the next slide, because IPFS, it's something that we use it in the past. We put the infrastructure for that. We build on top PIRL chat, PIRL tube. PIRL chat was a decentralized chat, so totally encrypted without central servers. But I will go over that in the next slide. Here, basically purely IPFS, because we put some requirement for the nodes, like public IP, it needs to be a servers and so on. It's really a stable node and stable network, like professional network and enterprise can use it, because IPFS at home, it's really cool for decentralization and so on. But if you are an enterprise and you rely on a 1 megabyte connection internet to get your file back, it can be really a pain with 10 gig of data. So that comes me to the PIRL social network. And what is PIRL social network? Well, the name is not as it, but it describes what it does. Um, we got some big trouble now with social networks and so on. And yeah, here is the point. You don't have any more privacy. social giant stole your data. So basically, you think it's free, but it's not. This is abusive. You you don't you don't see that maybe, or you don't want to see it. You don't own your data anymore, and we want to give you back that control, and to be able to control what you want to share, what you don't want to share, and keep it for you. And it's one point that Substrate uh, really solved to, and to help us to make it possible, because it's how we say that, modular enough to make it, and we can integrate it that inside the node. And the why is also okay, the data, but I think we now need to have a conscience. What the future will be if just one, two, or three big tech company control everything of the world. Um, we speak about a movie, The Social Dilemma, and it's really that. You have also the great hack that show it correctly. You are a slave of your data, and you don't even see that. So now it's time to give the right tool to the people, and yeah, solve that problem, because it's really important. It's really a big matters on the internet now. I think maybe Dan has something to add on that, because I know that he liked that subject. But yeah, it's the idea behind the social network is really to solve a real life trouble.
I was trying to spell dilemma properly because I was sharing the link and I failed because I wanted to come on screen in time. So please don't judge my. Oh, I see. It's two M's instead of an A in there. Okay, I was under pressure because I wanted to come on screen. Yeah, I mean, I
No
just
problem.
thought that it was. Yeah, I mean, as I said in the chat, this is really like the problem that motivates the Web 3.0 vision. Like, this is what it's all about. Certainly for me, is that right now the internet just doesn't give you the tools that you need to maintain custody of your own personal data. The world that we have created is one that, in order for things like Amazon and all these amazing places that we rely on, we need them to own our personal data. That's the only way that it can work. And what we're doing with the Web 3.0 vision and with Substrate and with Polkadot is we're creating new tools that mean that we can have the same types of interactions, but in ways that don't require the same amount of trust. And so, you know, DeFi is really cool. I love talking about it. Decentralized financial systems are one really important example of all of this. But from my point of view, it's really like maintaining control of personal data that is so important, so revolutionary. And so, yeah, I just get really jazzed up when people talk about this kind of stuff. So thanks for giving me the chance to add my 2 cents.
And really important. So yeah, and it's really the trouble we're trying to solve in PL, because making your project is good, but make it better, the work better is, yeah, it's better, way better. So we already got, from the past, the technologies, from that. We got the PillTube, that was like YouTube but decentralized. You can upload it, you control your data, you control your video. um, we put some kind of control, censorship, if we can say, but by the community, because we don't want it to get some bad video or propaganda or whatever stuff. So that's what's cool. I have to be honest. It was not the best product. The tech was cool, but the interface was hard to use, and it was against the PIL ID. So it's why we need to remake it. The same we do PIL chat. PIL chat was decentralized chat, encrypted. Only you control the key. You can make group chat using IPFS for data storage, data sharing, and also totally encrypted by default, not like Telegram, where you speak with people and it say, hey, enable encryption, and encryption is owned by some central servers. like WhatsApp or whatever. They say it's private, but it's not, because where is the data stored? So when you have also some big tech company that own your data, there is a possibility to get your data. What I mean by that is, if you have to make a lawsuit against the whole community, I mean, it become really complicated, and you have less power to the people on that way. If you have to sue one company, it's way easier, and you can try to retrieve the data. So yeah, it's right. We need decentralization, really important from the start, that the governance is, the treasury is, to the application and the usage of the application. So if you want to contribute, you are welcome, and it's really important. So all the developers are everywhere, and it's how we build a community. So what it will look like? It will look like on one interface with all the apps that I talked about integrated in it, like PIRL Chat, PIRL Tube, the Marlin. So you will be able to chat, share video, share your post, share everything, share every content on it. So it's really an hybrid platform, because we don't need to use all. If we don't want, we can just use the chat to chat with people you love, or maybe we can use PLTube to make live webinars and get rid of broadcast one day if it's performing well enough. You can use Marlin to host your content and create a decentralized CDN, pay with the coin, and maintain that. So you can choose the location all around the world. I will stop here because I have a question.
Yes, the question was, so it's asking if PIRL has collators, which that's like a validator for a parachain. So I think in some ways the question is if you have plans to become a parachain.
That's on the next step, because we have few solution. We have some. You have few solution about that. You can be a parachain. You can be a bridge. The trouble is with the parachain on our side, is you have to lease a seat, and leasing a seat is well, you build something. If we don't have the money, or we don't have the way to keep that seat, all the network is gone or not attached to the main chain. There is another solution, that's the bridge, and on my point of view is more interesting. So it's why we bring our own set of validators, and we will increase that set of validators later with the master node and so on to get the security of the chain. Why we got that direction? Because we have the experience from the past with PIRL 1.0, and we know that we can make a lot of validators on our chain using the good incentive to make it right. Yep.
Yep. And that, again, this is what I love about Substrate and Polkadot and everything, is that it gives you the choice. You know, you have the ability to make this choice. So not becoming a parachain is not necessarily the be all end goal for every substrate based chain. That is one way that you can use a substrate based chain. It solves certain types of problems, and the wonderful thing about Substrate is you can understand the problems that you have, and if you want to make a parachain to help you solve some of those problems, specifically around like getting enough validators, that's a really great, that's basically a one big question that it comes down to. If you don't think that that's something that you need to pay the price for or whatever, because you will pay a price to be on Polkadot, you have to pay for it, and it's a commitment and all of these things. And so if that doesn't fit into your business model for one reason or another, with Substrate, you can make a chain that meets your needs. And so I think the fact that not all Substrate builders are building Polkadot parachains is a really, really good thing because it speaks to the power of the framework and the flexibility of the framework. So yeah, I think it's awesome. And it's exactly why I wanted to have you on seminar today, Julian, is because I think it really shows exactly how flexible Substrate is and what it looks like for someone to take a problem or a product that they already have and then use Substrate to solve those same problems, maybe in a better or more powerful way. So yeah, great question, Thomas. Thank you for the answer, Julian, and I'll stop talking for now.
So I will add a bit more on that later, but it's a really good question, right? So in the network, we want to get people rewarded by action, and it's why I said we know where and how we can grab more nodes to make the change secure. But we want to reward people that create content, that share this content, and that make the network live, the network that participate. In fact, simple. We want that the network pay you for the action you do on social network, and not that you will be the product. That's not the goal, and that's not what we want. It's not the philosophy. So we have, and it's still on basic ID, I would say, because I would have a ton of questions arise, but we plan to make some advertisement system on that chain where the revenue will go to the platform, the treasury. So we continue to increase the money inside the treasury because treasury need money to pay developers and the community people, freelance developers to build on top of that. So the plan, what we want to do is 80% for users, so the people that accept to get the advertisement, and 20% for the treasury. So all that is cool, and I already working on that. If you want to contribute on one part or another, feel free to drop a message into our Discord or whatever you want, or just submit a proposal in the treasury and build your stuff on top of that. Also, if you need some help, and I will do what I can about Substrate, and if you want to know some trouble we got, the biggest trouble was more like how we do that in Rust. But no, it makes sense. It's pretty clear, and it's why we can do stuff like the social network. And we got something more interesting coming later, because we are Masternode coin, but we are also GPU miner coin. And all that GPU will need to find a house at some time. And yeah, it's also part of the big trouble if you don't want to use Google, for example, for your GPU computing. You will be able to use that. So we will develop an AI platform with a marketplace again, where you can just say, I make medicine research and I need some GPU power for really, really small stuff, or I need a lot of GPU, and you will be able to submit a job and pay in the currency to get that job done. We plan to make all what we say in the palette, so people will be able to use and plug and play with that in the Substrate node. Because community is important, and open source too, because yeah, it's how you get the less bug, and it's how you make everything evolving, because one idea is good, but ton of idea and community ideas is always better and make it better.
So, Julian, when you're talking about kind of like making this GPU power available to everyone, is that sort of like that thing that came out a while ago, the search for extraterrestrial life, where you could run like a screensaver on your computer and it would help find alien life? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, they make something like that for coronavirus also, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name. But again, they need to say, hey guys, just point your GPU. Here is what's like, for example, Ethereum is continue mining. You have your miners, and let's say you submit your miner, say, okay, I'm accepting to grab some job, like a bit nice hash. And you jump on that and you say,
Yep.
okay, I know I have a lot of power available.
Yep. Yes. So like there are these existing like platforms like the search for extraterrestrial life or like getting a vaccine for COVID or whatever, where some like big, not for profit probably, but centralized research body basically launches some platform that allows people to donate their computing resources to this greater cause. And so it sounds like what you're creating is a decentralized platform where I, as an individual developer, without needing to be some great big research organization or something, I could create an application that I can use other people's GPUs with their consent to help me solve my problem. And so it's a platform to help other people do this kind of stuff. So very exciting and very powerful.
Yeah, yeah, that's the goal. That to have really on-demand GPU all the time. So that's one goal, but we hope that the social network will grow. And with growing of network, we need to clean abuse of that social network too. So why not use AI for that and GPU powers to do that? Because it's possible when it's decentralized and rewards GPU owners or people that give the power for each bad content or each stuff they screen. Also, you can use like for clean of abuse, but you can use also for processing video and so on. No, because it's in development and you will have it later sent to Dogu. You can, as again, because you are in the Discord, you can ask in the Discord and you will be able to use that. But when the model is out, you will be able to do it. But there is also Substrate documentation now if you want to go over and use that and
For
burn it.
people who are just watching, Julian was just answering a question in chat, asking if there's documentation for some of the PIRL stuff, and that's still in development. Um, but yeah, Julian, you mentioned using this AI power to help do the content moderation on the network. That's really, really interesting. Can you talk about that a little bit more and like what that means?
That means that we use the full powers of blockchain because the biggest problem is with AI also is to keep it safe. And with the blockchain is like the only technology that allow it because there is no control of individual. There is no big tech that own that AI alone. It's really the blockchain that will rule that AI. So with that, it will learn. It will learn from the chain, from the content, and from the usage of the users of the social network. It will be able to also learn what you want to see or what you don't want to see, what you feel it's abusing or what you feel is not abusing. Because okay, we are all in our country, and for country A, some content will be abusing, but not for country B. We have people from country C that live in country D. So we need to make a balance, and that power will be able to learn and to adapt it to the people and really detect what is bad content and prevent it before it happens to the network. Because basically, when you will push the upload button, that GPU power will be able to say, okay, that's we will flag it. Not like when you upload something on YouTube, when we see I think it's a few months ago, you upload a video about cryptocurrency, or you just write cryptocurrency, poof, your account is wiped. It's not how we do, because it's censor and it's control, and it's not what we want to do. There is stuff we want to share, but we want to share it freely, and people need to know and learn more about the world they are living into. I'm not sure if you publish a video, an inside video about the Google ethic and so on, it will be available for long in the YouTube.
Yeah, I really think this question of content moderation and using AI to help with it, it's a really, really interesting one. Some people may have heard me talk about like the Kusama art gallery that I'm a part of and trying to help bring to life. And so content moderation is obviously a concern there. Of course, none of us want censorship. That's the antithesis of what we are trying to create, but that doesn't mean that we want to create like a wild west 8chan where kind of anything goes. There we want to create a real community where people can decide what types of content belong in that community. Sometimes this may be illegal content, sometimes it may be highly offensive content, or maybe people just want to create a network that has certain types of content to it. And so it's kind of like taking this idea of a DAO, I feel like, and almost like really pushing it out even farther, like building these AI capabilities into the network. So again, going back to the art gallery and your example of someone pushing the upload button, what if someone uploads a piece of art that is very offensive or perhaps illegal in some ways? Can this be detected by the AI? And then maybe it could be put into some kind of a queue for the governance body of that chain to evaluate and maybe put it up for a vote or something like that. So, we're not saying that the network necessarily has to be completely under the control of the AI, but it's very, very exciting to think about how that can become part of the capability of the network. So I'm really excited to see where that goes.
It needs to go step by step, of course, because yeah, the AI can't really take all the powers of the network, and it's better that it is not doing it. But the AI will learn, and will learn what is good, what is bad, and it will learn by the peoples, not only peoples of one ethnic or of one country, but all the people of the world that using the chain, and that's really important. You have all feedback from everywhere to that, make it really powerful. So this AI can be used also to create translation, sorry, make ads effective. For example, um, well, every idea you want to do it with this AI, when it's available to the network, will be just awesome because it's there. You can use it and build on it, like Dan was saying, the network on Kusama. Um, and nice emoji. Um, so it's why also we want you to connect to all the chain, and provide that power to the other chain also, some like Kusama or Polkadot. And that's why a parachain doesn't fit really much in our environment, because we have too much constraint on that. And imagine we don't get our seat renewed. That's mean if we succeed and we provide the GPU powers to the people, and AI powers for content moderation, that's mean the scene is gone, the chain is like boom, without any moderation, and all apps is down. So that was my next point, the connection. So we have parachain, relay chain, or bridge. I will not go long around that because we already talked about that, but the bridge for us would be the best solution. If you want to build a parachain, you will be able to do an auction. Maybe Dan can talk a bit more about that parachain auction.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide a little bit more insight around a parachain versus a bridge, and like how are they similar, how are they different. In terms of parachain auctions, we haven't released a lot of final details around that. It's still in development. When I'm done talking, I'll share some links for like chat channels that you can join to stay really up to date on this stuff, as well as some blogs that have been out around parachain auctions. But quick update on where we are with parachains. We launched our first parachain test network. It ran for a while. It's finished now, and we use those learnings to make changes to the parachain protocol and the libraries and the frameworks and everything. And we are very, very close to releasing the next version of the parachain test network. And as this process continues, we'll be able to provide more context about what the auctions are going to look like. After we get things done on this dedicated parachain test network, we'll probably, none of this is set in stone, but this is our intended path. We're probably going to roll out parachains to our West End test network, then to Kusama, then to Polkadot. And I would think that along the way, as we get closer and closer to Polkadot, we'll get a better idea of what these auctions are going to look like. So now let's talk a little bit about parachain versus bridge. You definitely brought up one very important thing that you get with a parachain, which is you don't need to provide a lot of validators. And so PIRL has a lot of existing validators. That's not a need of yours. You don't need to pay for that. So that's great. Substrate gives you that flexibility. So you can rely on your own validators. The other thing that Polkadot and being a parachain gives you is this interoperability, because every parachain that is connected to the same relay chain, whether it's Polkadot or Kusama or West End or whatever, they are all interoperable by virtue of the fact that they can pass messages between one another through the relay chain. So if you want to have the ability to communicate with those chains, what you can do is you can create a bridge to either the Polkadot network itself or to a parachain on the Polkadot network. Chances are these bridges will mostly materialize as something in between two parachains. So we don't necessarily foresee bridges connecting directly to the Polkadot relay chain. A bridge will connect into a parachain, and then that parachain will be able to offer that communication to all of the other parachains in the relay chain. And so PIRL has some interoperability needs. You want to be able to communicate with these other blockchains, but you don't want to have to pay the price of a parachain slot. So this is where a bridge becomes a really, really good option. And I'm about to finish talking. And when I do, as I post those links that I said I'd share about the parachain auctions, I'll share some more links that we have about bridges and a seminar that we did about them and everything. So kind of wrapping this up, parachain is, the shared infrastructure and security, the validators, and the message passing. And so if you only need the message passing piece, that's where a bridge may be really good for you. So that's what I got.
Yeah, and I think it's really, really interesting concept, and it pushed to the right decision to know where you want to go, because you don't build the same way. So it's really, really important. As said, we are not a big ICO or whatever, and we want you to be sure that all our services will be connected. Yeah.
Cyril, regarding your question about ChainX Bridge, I'm not sure of that product. So, don't take anything that I said for heart. Certainly don't take anything that I said as a indication of what some other project is planning on doing. My understanding that I have validated with many of the people that work on Polkadot is that we don't expect many bridges to connect directly to the relay chain. But please don't take that 100% for the law. I would really need to follow up with ChainX and maybe learn a little bit more about what they're doing before I could answer that question. Yeah, sorry, I can't provide a more satisfying answer.
So yeah, that's a bit why we choose the bridge against the parachain. But if you have something really simple, you can just also be the relay chain. And as Dan said, it's still evolving and not fully set in stone. So really important in PIRL and the direction we want to go and we come from. We try to improve that. But it's 100% open source and 100% community driven. So if you have stuff to share, you want to submit ID or say contribution or whatever, yeah, well, feel free to come. It's an open community. And if you want to develop on top of Substrate, yeah, it's the place to go. You have Substrate 2, you have Discord. Really, if we want to make this world better and blockchain better, we need to work all together and not all against. Really important. So here, if you have some resources, I will share that screen later, so you can go Substrate Dev. If you want to start Substrate, really go over the tutorials. A lot of it is in there. You have the kitchen node also that has a lot of good stuff. There is a lot of node in the repo. Yeah. There is a lot of stuff in there. Yeah.
Can we share these slides for people, Julian?
Yeah, let me.
We don't have to do it now. We can put it in the seminar channel in Element afterwards, but just so people know that they'll have access to this later.
Does it work?
Oh yeah, that works great. Perfect. I love it.
This one, and I don't think I put it in that. This one is a cool one. This GitHub link, because you have a lot of implementation, and if you want to implement a palette, Substrate has a lot of good things, but the documentation need to come. You need to contribute also to make the documentation good. When you find a bug or whatever, don't hesitate to commit. It's how we improve. But if you want to implement the palette, you don't find the documentation, you go to the REST documentation and say, whoa, what I need to do. You can go to that Canvas node and you will see the palettes implemented. There is also one in the Substrate repo, full node, where you have Babe implemented too, where you can play with that. Apparently, it's the one they use to validate all the palettes. So I think it's a good point to start into loop also.
Yep. I think I always, when I give little presentations for helping people get started with Substrate development, I always like to give them some pro tips, because like you said, when you're starting with Substrate and some of the documentation, you try to look at it and it is a little bit like, whoa, what's going on here? And so sometimes, it is good to know where the documentation is. I would say a lot of the times check the documentation first, but sometimes you may not find what you're looking for there. And that's a great time to, hit me up and be like, hey, Dan, it would be really nice if we could get a little bit more documentation around this, or maybe create an issue on GitHub. Like, I'm totally here to help with that. But if, to kind of immediately get you unstuck off of that, the next really good thing to do is to go look at the code, because a lot of your questions can be answered by just going and seeing how we do it in the Substrate code base. So the Canvas node that you shared is a really, really good node if you want to understand how to add our smart contract capabilities to your chain. If then in the main Substrate repo, there's that bin/node directory. And as you said, this is kind of like, I don't want to use the term like garbage can because that's a very bad term, but it's like a basket where we just put all of the different frame palettes, and it's mainly for CI. We want to make sure that you can put these together in a node, that our tests can run on them. So yes, thank you, Julian, for sharing that link. This is the node that I'm talking about. So don't try to use this node in production. This is not what this node is designed for. It's really mainly designed to help us make sure that when we make changes somewhere in this great big code base, that it doesn't break it when it all actually tries to work together. This is like our big bin where we put everything together and just make sure that it works. But like I said, Substrate is really, it's a toolkit with all kinds of tools for solving all different types of problems. So I really can't think of many problems that you would solve by putting every tool together just in a big basket, like that's not what the node is. So I do want to make that very, very clear. This is very different from the Canvas node, which does exist to solve a very specific purpose. The Canvas node is a running blockchain network for smart contracts. And so it is designed to serve more of a development purpose. The bin node that Julian shared the link for, that's more like, oh, I just want to see like what it looks like if I add this node to my palette, kind of get some ideas for how to do that. Bin node is one good place to do that. Another really good place to do that is Polkadot, the Polkadot repository itself. And there in the Polkadot repository, you can look at the runtimes of West End, Kusama, Polkadot, and that's really interesting because you can see how the frame runtime library that we talked about is used to make 3 different chains. So much of the code between West End and Kusama and Polkadot is almost exactly the same, and it's only in the way that we configure these palettes, what palettes we decide to use, and the way that we hook them up together. That's really the main way that they're different. And so just like the documentation is a really good resource for learning about this stuff, as we work on getting all the documentation that we need out there, consider the code itself as a really, really good resource for learning more about this and understanding how to do it on your own. Yep.
Yeah. Code is better than most of the documentation. And in GitHub, you have search function. So you put the palette name, you put it, and you see where it go. You see in the files they are, and yeah, you can really make your journey with that. Also, when you choose a framework, one really important thing is the team behind it, because we work it with other framework, with other node stuff. It's really rare that to have founders and so on that reply to you and that really help you and that make your journey better to help you sort your trouble. And here it's why Polkadot and Substrate team is really helpful. And yeah, that's the philosophy they have. Also, if you are again not sure and you say, okay, the guy that created Polkadot or Substrate, and we are not sure, go check on YouTube. There is a tutorial. It was Gav that just bought a new MacBook Pro, and he say, I will show you how to run a node, and it's coding the nodes on front of the camera on a new Mac, and it's demonstrate how easy it was because it's like a long time now to make a Substrate node. So that's really important to keep in mind as developers, and you don't want to be alone in the wild. Otherwise, just build your own stuff from scratch, get all the trouble from scratch, and solve it yourself. But good luck. You will need a lot of money. You will need a lot of time and people behind you. And really here you go to the Matrix channel, then shared. You can even ask him some question and yeah, of course, Dan is there for that. But other team, people of the team. So,
yeah, I'm back. I love that you mentioned that. I'm just getting the link for our technical chat. The one that I shared earlier was for the one especially about parachains, but this one that I just shared is like the general technical chat. So I definitely hope that everyone joins that. And yeah, that video of Gav in 2018, which, in blockchain terms, that may as well be like caveman days, I mean, that was forever ago. And it's, it's this video of Gav literally unwrapping a brand new MacBook Pro. And then within the course of his speech, I think he actually calls someone up from the audience to start a Substrate chain on the MacBook Pro or something along those lines. It's very flashy, very, cool. But even though this is like over 2 years old now, all the time people tell me, I'll never forget that video I saw of Gav. That was what got me so excited about Substrate. So if you haven't seen that video and you're just looking for something fun to do, like even if you already love Substrate, just check it out. It's like I said, it's like a famous video in our ecosystem.
Yeah, it's really awesome video because it really proved, hey guys, I know what I do. If I have a problem, I can solve it, even if nobody is there or what. And it's really important when you build something.
Yep. I mean, I love that, Julian, that you're letting everyone know that I'm in the chat. I definitely am in the chat. I obviously love talking to all of you, but it's not just me. There are the real developers, the real core developers in the chat who are working on Substrate, and I wouldn't be able to do my job without them. There's many, many questions that I'm still learning the answers to. And you have people like Sean Chabrizi, Pierre Krieger, Basti, Rob, all these people who, Gav is in the chat answering questions. And so, I mean, the tech is awesome. I obviously love the tech, but especially when you're working with tech as complicated as Substrate, we can say that. I think that's okay to say that. You really, really need a community there. And just like, the forkless runtime upgrades are part of making it all work in the real world, I think really everyone at Parity understands that community is part of what makes it work, not just to get the questions answered, but like to really make it fun. Like we really want to make it fun and build a community. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that, because it's why I love what I do so much.
Yeah, it's really important, and yeah, it's really awesome because we can know everything, and when we have a trouble, we can just ask. Or yeah, you have some stuff, you submit an issue, and yeah, wait and see. Maybe one day they will reply, maybe not.
Yep. And I promise, if someone doesn't reply to an issue, send me a DM. That's my job, to make sure that issues get replied to. So that's definitely, let me know if your issues aren't getting replied to. I can help with that for sure. And yeah, like I think these people, Sean, Rob, Basti, Gav, they don't always have all the answers. And I think they know that. They're humble enough that if someone says something and points out maybe, oh, this could be easier, or maybe there's a little something that's missing, that's a real thing that happens. And this is all in development. This is all open source. And you never know. You may make a suggestion one day that Gav might hear, and a few weeks later, it may be deployed to Polkadot. Like that's a thing that happens. So yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, and it's really how we build a new ecosystem and better world.
Yep. Really, really glad to have people like you be a part of it. I mean, it really it makes my job fun. And so thank you for, coming and sharing your story and everything. And yeah, are there any other questions for Julian? Does anyone, thinking about building their own chain and maybe they're looking for a little advice, or, I hope you can tell that we're not here to only talk about the pretty things. If you want to know maybe like what you should watch out for or something, we can talk about that too. But if there aren't any more questions right now, there is the Substrate Seminar channel on Element that you can always use. Join our technical channel and you can ask and we'll help you find the seminar channel from there. But yeah, Julian, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, really, thank you very much for the invitation, for the compliments. And yeah, without you, without the team of Substrate, that wasn't be possible. So yes, really big thank you, and yeah, really awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you for the support, and we will be there for long.
Yeah, I can tell. Thank you for coming on seminar. Like, I can tell that when you say like you want to give back to the community, it's not just something that you say because it sounds good in a blog post. Like, look, here you are, you're doing it. I really, really appreciate it. So thanks again, Julian. I'll maybe just stick around for another minute or two in case anyone else has any questions. But yeah, thank you very much, Julian.
Thank you too. Thank you very much. Well, looks like we were clear.
We're still live, just so you know. All the thanks rolling in. Very good seminar, great moderation, and many thanks to everyone. Some greetings to the private data collectors. Yes. Hi, Google overlords that are watching our personal data. You can be part of our community too. All right, guys, I got some more meetings, so I'm going to sign off. Doesn't look like there's any more questions, but hope to see you around Element and everything. Bye, Julian. Have a great evening.
Thank you. You too. Bye.